Welcome to this edition of Business Video Trends on TMCnet. I'm your host, Steve Vonderhaar. This time we're talking about the prospective demand for content management based on the segmentation of archiving activity of online multimedia in the enterprise. In a survey of 1,212 corporate executives conducted by Interactive Media Strategies, we asked respondents to tell us how much programming for business-related content their organization was archiving for on-demand use. And here in this slide, we see that basically larger companies, as would be expected, are the most aggressive users and deployers of archived online multimedia content. Here we see 39% of organizations with more than 2,500 employees saying that they archive at least 25 hours of webcast content on a monthly basis. Another 44% of this large company group saying that they deploy less than 25 hours of online multimedia content monthly, but at least do some type of archiving capability. Now, as companies get smaller in this chart, we see that their relative use of archives declines as well. This is in step with the overall decline in online multimedia usage we see among smaller companies compared to their larger counterparts. So, for example, mid-sized companies, 250 to 2,499 employees, 21% reporting archive creation at the rate of 25 hours of programming or more monthly. 55% saying that they are doing archiving but producing less than 25 hours of on-demand content, adding those to their archives on a monthly basis. And among small companies, relatively modest adoption of archive content. 5% of those organizations with fewer than 250 employees reporting the development of archives of more than 25 hours of content on a monthly basis. 39% reporting that they are doing some archiving but doing less than 25 hours of production each month. So what we can see here is that among those large companies that are more likely to use the technology on a frequent basis, we have a significant adoption of archiving and a prospective demand for content management services. Now, as we move to the next slide, we start to consider these same factors, but segmented on a industry vertical basis. So what we see here is that, again, those organizations in vertical sectors that are more likely to be using online multimedia in general also are more likely to be adopting archiving capabilities on a frequent basis. At the top of this list, we see technology and financial services, both with strong levels of adoption of archiving activity, producing 25 or more hours of content added to on-demand archives on a monthly basis. In the case of the technology sector, that's 35% of organizations, more than 1/3. In the financial services, 29% of organizations producing at least 25 hours of on-demand online multimedia content. Also strong levels of modest adoption, 46% among technology service companies, 51% of financial services organizations overall reporting that they are at least deploying at least some form of online multimedia archives, even if it is not exceeding that 25-hour per month plateau that we talk about in the far left of this chart. Other sectors where we see significant adoption of content archiving, where we see more than 25 hours per month in terms of the development of new archive content. More than 1/4 of the respondents in a variety of sectors coming to that level of frequency of archiving: manufacturing, education, insurance, media and marketing, and construction, all showing relatively strong levels of adoption for active content archiving capabilities, making them primary immediate targets for content management solutions. Now, we do have some surprises that begin to emerge when we look at this chart. We have some sectors where there's very little adoption of online archiving on a frequent basis, but a lot of experimentation. These may be sectors that should be targeted for potential expansion or be watched for potential new growth and demand among sectors that are dabbling in the technology now but not really using it on an extensive basis. These sectors include the hospitality sector. We see only 8% of that group deploying 25 or more hours of online multimedia archive content on a monthly basis, but 62% of those organizations at least experimenting with archiving and beginning to learn about how on-demand capabilities for online multimedia can be woven into their day-to-day business communications. Likewise, we see sectors like healthcare, only 19% of that group producing archives at the rapid rate of 25 or more hours monthly, but 48% of that group citing incremental usage of online multimedia archives. And now all the way at the bottom of this chart, usually retailers are seen as laggards in terms of the adoption of online multimedia, and it still is the case, only 12% using online multimedia content archiving, but exactly one half of retailers at least experimenting with archiving, looking at ways to implement the technology of content management and being able to leverage on-demand capabilities in their communications efforts. So as one looks at the demand cycles for content management capabilities, look at the archives. Those organizations that are developing larger storehouses, larger libraries of content are more likely to have a higher demand and a higher need for sophisticated content management capabilities. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Business Video Trends on TMC Net. I'm Steve Onderhaar. Thanks for your time.